The outcast species. In the vast expanse of the Milky Way, where countless stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across black velvet, the silicoids drifted through space, outcasts in a universe that seemed determined to reject them. Their crystalline forms, beautiful in their geometric perfection, were an anomaly in a galaxy teeming with carbon-based life. Zix 427, lead engineer aboard the silicoid trading vessel Obsidian Voyager, gazed out at the star-speckled void through sensory clusters that served as eyes. The ship's destination, a bustling spaceport orbiting a gas giant in the Centauri system, loomed ahead. Zix felt a familiar mixture of anticipation and dread. Entering standard orbit, announced Crye 190, the ship's navigator. Her voice resonated through the ship's crystal structure, a melodious chime that belied the tension aboard. Captain Lum 003's facets glinted as she turned to address her crew. "Remember, we're here to trade and nothing more. Keep interactions to a minimum. We don't need another incident." The crew nodded in unison, their crystalline bodies catching and refracting the light from nearby stars. They all knew the drill. Get in, conduct business, get out. The less time spent around carbon-based lifeforms, the better. As the Obsidian Voyager docked, Zix prepared for another round of thinly veiled hostility and barely concealed disgust from the port authorities. It was a dance they'd performed countless times across the galaxy. The silicoids were tolerated for their advanced starship technology, but never welcomed. The airlock hissed open, and a wave of humid, carbon-rich air washed over them. Zix's outer layers instinctively hardened, a reflex born from years of exposure to environments that, while not immediately lethal, were far from comfortable. A group of Centaurians, their tentacled bodies swaying gently, approached. The lead official, distinguishable by the ornate markings on its carapace, extended a data pad. "State your business, silicoids," it burbled, the translator struggling to convey the underlying tone of disdain. Captain Lum 003 stepped forward, her crystalline form towering over the Centaurian. "We're here to trade. We have a shipment of high-efficiency warp coils and seek rare earth elements in exchange." The official's eye stalks twitched, a clear sign of interest warring with ingrained prejudice. "Very well. You may proceed to Docking Bay 17. Keep your people contained to that area. We don't want any contamination." Zix felt a familiar surge of indignation. Contamination, as if their silicon-based biology could somehow infect or harm carbon life forms. It was ignorance, pure and simple, but arguing would only make things worse. As they made their way through the spaceport, Zix couldn't help but notice the stares and whispers that followed them. Other species gave them a wide berth, some even going so far as to shield their young from the sight of the silicoids. It was a cruel reminder of their status in the galactic community. "Look at them," a young Arcturian whispered to its parent, loud enough for Zix's sensitive audio receptors to pick up. "They're so unnatural." Unnatural. The word stung, even after all this time. Zix had often pondered the irony. In a universe of such diversity, where life had found a way to thrive in the most extreme conditions, how could anyone label another sentient species as unnatural? At Docking Bay 17, they set up their temporary trading post. The rare earth elements they sought were crucial for maintaining and expanding their fleet. Without them, the silicoids would be stranded, unable to traverse the vast distances between habitable systems. As Zix began unloading the warp coils, a commotion at the far end of the docking bay caught his attention. A group of Centaurian security officers were confronting a lone figure, a species Zix had never encountered before. The creature was bipedal, with a soft, pliable exterior that seemed to shift and change with every movement. Its upper limbs ended in multiple flexible appendages, and atop its body sat a rounded protrusion with various sensory organs. Despite being surrounded and clearly outnumbered, the creature stood its ground, gesticulating wildly with its limbs. "I told you I'm not looking for trouble," the creature said, its voice carrying across the bay. I'm just here to trade and explore. Is that so hard to understand? The lead security officer's tentacles writhed in agitation. Your kind is not welcome here, human. You have no official status in our star charts, no recognized government. For all we know, you could be pirates or worse. Human. The word was unfamiliar to Zix, but something about the creature's defiant stance resonated with him. Here was another outsider, facing the same prejudice and fear that the silicoids encountered every day. Without fully realizing what he was doing, Zix found himself moving towards the confrontation. Captain Lum-003 hissed a warning, but Zix pressed on. As he approached, the human's eyes widened in surprise, taking in Zix's crystalline form. "Is there a problem here?" Zix asked, his translator converting his crystalline resonances into something the others could understand. The Centaurian officer turned, startled by Zix's intervention. "This doesn't concern you, silicoid. Return to your designated area." The human, however, seemed fascinated. "I've never seen anything like you before," it said, wonder evident in its voice. "What are you?" Before Zix could respond, Captain Lum-003 arrived, her larger form casting a shadow over the group. "My apologies for my crew member's intrusion," she said to the Centaurian officer. "We'll return to our business immediately." But the human wasn't ready to let it go. "Wait," it said, addressing Lum-003 directly. "You're traders, right? Maybe we can help each other out. I have some rare earth elements I'm looking to trade, and I'm in the market for some advanced tech." The Centaurian officer's eye stalks quivered in disbelief. "You can't be serious. Trading with silicoids. They're barely tolerated as it is." The human's face contorted in what Zix would later learn was an expression of anger. "And who are you to decide who I can and can't trade with? Last I checked, this was a free port." Captain Lum-003 hesitated, her crystalline structure vibrating with indecision. Trading with an unknown species was risky, but the potential benefits— "Perhaps we can discuss this further," she said cautiously. "If you'd like to visit our trading post." The human's face transformed again, this time into what Zix would come to recognize as a smile. "I'd be delighted," it said, stepping around the sputtering Centaurian officer. As they walked back to the silicoid trading post, Zix felt a glimmer of something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Hope. This human, this strange, soft creature, had looked at him without disgust or fear. It had seen the silicoids as potential partners, not freaks or outcasts. "I'm Sarah, by the way," the human said as they walked. "Sarah Chen, captain of the Earth ship Curiosity." "I am Zix 427, Zix responded, finding the human's name structure odd but intriguing. "Engineer aboard the Obsidian Voyager." As they reached the trading post, other members of the silicoid crew gathered, their crystalline forms reflecting the artificial light of the docking bay. Sarah looked around in undisguised wonder. "This is amazing," she breathed. "I've never seen anything like your ship, or like you. How do you function? What's your biology like?" "Oh, sorry," she added, noticing the silicoid's surprised reactions. "I tend to get a bit excited about new discoveries. Occupational hazard of being an explorer, I guess." Captain Lum-003 stepped forward. "Your curiosity is unexpected, but not unwelcome. We are accustomed to very different reactions from carbon-based life forms." Sarah's expression darkened. "Yeah, I noticed how those Centaurians were treating you. It's not right. In my culture, we have a saying, 'Don't judge a book by its cover.' It means you shouldn't make assumptions about someone based on their appearance." The concept was so foreign, so contrary to everything the silicoids had experienced in their long history of galactic trade, that for a moment they were all stunned into silence. Zix was the first to recover. "Your culture sounds fascinating, Sarah Chen. Perhaps, while we discuss trade, you could tell us more about your species and your world." Sarah's face lit up with another smile. "I'd love to, and please just call me Sarah. In return, I'd love to learn more about you. Fair warning though, I ask a lot of questions." As they settled in to begin negotiations, Zix felt a shift in the air, as if the very atoms around them were rearranging themselves. Something momentous was happening here, something that could change everything for the silicoids. For the first time in generations, they weren't being treated as freaks or outcasts. This human, this Sarah, looked at them with genuine interest and respect. It was a small thing, perhaps, in the grand scheme of the galaxy, but for Zix and his people, it felt like the dawn of a new era. As Sarah began to describe her homeworld, a place called Earth, teeming with diverse life forms and cultures, Zix allowed himself to imagine a future where the silicoids were no longer alone in the universe. A future where they had allies, perhaps even friends. It was a dangerous hope, he knew. Humans were just one species, and a newcomer to the galactic stage at that. But as he listened to Sarah's enthusiastic descriptions and watched his fellow silicoids slowly relax in her presence, Zix couldn't help but feel that something fundamental had changed. The galaxy, vast and often hostile as it was, suddenly seemed a little bit brighter. And for the first time in a very long time, Zix looked to the future not with dread, but with anticipation. As the trade negotiations progressed, Sarah's curiosity about the silicoids only grew. She asked about their crystalline biology, their methods of reproduction, their social structures, all topics that other species typically avoided out of a mixture of disgust and fear. "So, you don't have separate sexes?" Sarah asked, her eyes wide with fascination. "You just split when it's time to create new silicoids?" Cry 190, the navigator, chimed in. "Correct. When our population requires expansion, or when we've accumulated enough resources, we undergo a process of controlled fission. The parent silicoid splits into two new individuals, each carrying the memories and experiences of the original." Sarah nodded, clearly filing away this information for later consideration. "That's incredible. It's so different from how we reproduce, but it makes perfect sense for your biology. Do you maintain family units then? Or is your whole society one big family?" As the silicoids explained their social structures, loose affiliations based on shared goals and compatible resonance frequencies rather than biological relationships, Zix found himself marveling at the humans' ability to accept and even admire their alien nature. The trade negotiations themselves were going surprisingly well. Sarah's ship, the Curiosity, had indeed been collecting rare earth elements as part of their exploratory mission. In exchange for these crucial resources, the silicoids offered not just the promised warp coils, but also schematics for more efficient life support systems, technology that would be invaluable for a species just beginning to venture into deep space. As they finalized the details of the trade, a commotion outside their designated area caught everyone's attention. The Centaurian port authorities had returned, this time with reinforcements. "This unauthorized gathering ends now," the lead officer announced, its tentacles writhing with barely contained hostility. "The human will come with us for questioning, and the silicoids will prepare for immediate departure." Sarah stood, her small form somehow managing to project an air of authority that belied her size. "On what grounds?" "We're conducting a perfectly legal trade in a designated area of a free port." The Centaurian's eye stalks quivered. "We have reason to believe you're engaged in espionage, sharing restricted technologies with an unrecognized species." Captain Lum 003's crystalline form vibrated with indignation. "That is a baseless accusation. We have traded in this port for generations without incident. Nevertheless," the Centaurian insisted, "you'll comply or face forcible removal." The tension in the air was palpable. Zix could feel his fellow silicoids preparing for the worst. They had faced similar situations before, and they rarely ended well for his people. But Sarah wasn't backing down. "Listen," she said, her voice firm but calm. "I understand you're just doing your job. But think about what you're doing here. You're about to disrupt a peaceful trade negotiation between two spacefaring species based on nothing but prejudice and fear. Is that really the kind of galactic community you want to be part of?" The Centaurian officer hesitated, its tentacles curling uncertainly. Sarah pressed on. Where I come from, we have a long and painful history of judging others based on their appearance or their origins. We've learned, the hard way, that diversity isn't just something to be tolerated, it's something to be celebrated. Every new perspective, every different way of thinking, it all adds to the richness of our shared existence. She gestured to the silicoids. Look at them. Really look. They're not a threat. They're not unnatural. They're sentient beings, just like you and me. They think, they feel, they create amazing technologies that benefit all of us. How can we claim to be an advanced, spacefaring civilization if we can't even treat each other with basic respect and dignity? The docking bay had fallen silent. Even the background hum of machinery seemed muted, as if the very air was holding its breath. The Centaurian officer's eye stalks swiveled, taking in the scene. The determined human, the dignified silicoids, the watching crowd of various species that had gathered at the edges of the confrontation. Finally, it spoke. Perhaps we have been hasty in our judgments. The trade may continue under supervision, but be warned, any sign of illicit activity, and you'll all face the full consequences of the law. As the Centaurian officers retreated, a collective sigh of relief swept through the gathering. Sarah turned to the silicoids, a mixture of triumph and apology on her face. I'm sorry about that. You shouldn't have to deal with that kind of prejudice. Captain Lum 003's crystalline form shimmered in what Zix recognized as deep emotion. You defended us, she said, her voice resonating with disbelief and gratitude. No one has ever done that before. Sarah's expression softened. Well, it's about time someone did. Look, I know I'm new to this whole galactic community thing, but from where I'm standing, you silicoids seem like exactly the kind of allies humanity could use out here. Smart, capable, and a whole lot more reasonable than some of the other folks we've met. Zix felt a surge of something he couldn't quite identify, a warmth that seemed to spread through his crystalline structure, making him feel more alive than he had in cycles. And you, Sarah Chen of Earth, seem like exactly the kind of ally we silicoids have been waiting for. As they returned to finalizing their trade agreement, there was a new energy in the air. The silicoids moved with more confidence, their crystalline forms catching and refracting the light in dazzling patterns. The humans, for Sarah had called in a few of her crew members to help with the logistics, worked alongside them with enthusiasm and respect. Zix found himself working closely with a human engineer named Alex, comparing notes on warp drive efficiency and the potential applications of silicoid crystal technology in human ship design. The exchange of ideas was exhilarating, each insight building on the last in a way that left both of them buzzing with excitement. As the day cycle of the spaceport drew to a close, Zix realized that for the first time the galactic ripple effect. The news of the unprecedented alliance between humans and silicoids spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Subspace communications buzzed with rumors, speculation, and no small amount of fear. The established order, which had stood for millennia, was suddenly facing a seismic shift. Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth ship Curiosity stood on the bridge, watching as her vessel and the silicoid ship, Obsidian Voyager, traveled in perfect formation. The sight of the crystalline behemoth gliding silently alongside her own ship still filled her with awe. Captain, her communications officer called out, "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. Put it through. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the stern face of Admiral Zhang. "Captain Chen," he began, his voice grave, "your actions have caused quite a stir back home. The UN Security Council has been in emergency sessions for days." Sarah steeled herself. "Sir, I stand by my decision. The silicoids err." "A technological goldmine," the Admiral interrupted, his expression softening into something almost resembling a smile. "And potentially our strongest allies in a galaxy it seems largely hostile to newcomers. Well done, Captain." Relief washed over Sarah. "Thank you, sir. What are our orders?" "You're to proceed to the newly established Joint Research Facility on Mars. The silicoids have agreed to send a delegation. Your mission is to facilitate this historic collaboration and ensure its success. The fate of Earth's position in the galactic community may well depend on it. As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her crew. Well, folks, looks like we're making history. Set a course for Mars, maximum warp. Meanwhile, aboard the Obsidian Voyager, Zix 427 was experiencing his own moment of tension. The Silicoid High Council had convened an emergency session to discuss the alliance with humans. Counselor Zix began, his crystalline form vibrating with nervous energy. I understand your concerns, but the humans are unlike any species we've encountered. They see us not as freaks or outcasts, but as equals. The potential benefits of this alliance are immeasurable. Elder Quartz, the most senior member of the council, chimed in. Your passion is noted, Zix 427, but passion must be tempered with caution. What guarantees do we have that these humans won't betray us once they've gleaned our technological secrets? Zix paused, considering his words carefully. Counselors, in all our cycles of existence, has any species ever stood up for us the way Sarah Chen did? Has any race ever looked at us with wonder instead of disgust? The humans are different. They value diversity, they celebrate it. In them we have a chance not just for technological exchange, but for true acceptance. A murmur ran through the council chamber, crystal structures resonating with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Finally, Elder Quartz spoke again. Very well. We will proceed with this alliance, but with caution. Zix 427, given your experience with the humans, you will lead our delegation to their Mars facility. Do not let your personal feelings cloud your judgment. The future of our species may rest on your shoulders. As both ships made their way towards Mars, news of the alliance continued to ripple across the galaxy. On countless worlds, in myriad forms of life, the same questions were being asked. Who were these humans? How had they managed to ally themselves with the reclusive silicoids? And what would this mean for the balance of power in the galaxy? On Centaurid Prime, the ruling council was in an uproar. We must stop this alliance before it's too late, one councillor insisted. The combined knowledge of humans and silicoids could upset millennia of carefully maintained galactic order. In the Arcturian Nebula, a gathering of energy beings pulsed with curiosity. Perhaps, one suggested, it is time for us to emerge from our isolation. These humans seem intriguing. And in the depths of uncharted space, something ancient and terrible stirred. The Void Dwellers, a race so old they had passed into legend, sensed a shift in the cosmic balance. For the first time in eons, they turned their unfathomable attention towards the Milky Way. Back on the Curiosity, Sarah sat in her ready room, poring over the latest data from Earth. The global reaction to the alliance was mixed, to say the least. While many celebrated the potential for advancement, others feared the unknown. Protests had broken out in several major cities, with signs reading Earth for Humans and Say No to Crystal Invaders. A chime at her door interrupted her thoughts. Enter, she called out. Zix stepped in, his crystalline form catching the light from the stars outside. Captain Chen, he began, his voice a melody of chimes. I hope I'm not interrupting. Sarah smiled, gesturing for him to take a seat. Not at all, Zix, and please call me Sarah. We're making history together. I think we can dispense with formalities. Zix settled into the specially designed chair, his facets shimmering with what Sarah had come to recognize as amusement. Very well, Sarah. I wanted to discuss the upcoming meeting on Mars. My people are apprehensive. We've never revealed so much of ourselves to another species before. Sarah nodded, understanding all too well. We're nervous too, Zix. But I believe this is the start of something incredible. Together, we could reshape the galaxy. A partnership of silicon and carbon, crystal and flesh. Imagine the possibilities. As they discussed the upcoming summit, neither of them could have imagined the forces their alliance had set in motion. Across the galaxy, ancient prophecies were being dusted off, long-dormant technologies were awakening, and powers beyond comprehension were turning their gaze towards Earth and the silicoid homeworld. The Mars Research Facility, a sprawling complex of domes and underground chambers, loomed into view as the ships approached. It was here, on the red planet, that the future of two species, and perhaps the entire galaxy, would be decided. As they prepared for landing, Sarah turned to Zix, ready to make history. Zix's crystalline form sparkled in the light of the Martian dawn. "With you, Sarah Chen of Earth, I believe we're ready for anything." Little did they know, their alliance was about to face its first true test. For in the shadows of the facility, hidden from both human and silicoid sensors, agents of a shadowy galactic consortium were waiting. Their mission: to ensure that this upstart alliance never left Mars alive. As the ships touched down on the red Martian soil, kicking up swirls of dust, the stage was set for a confrontation that would echo across the stars. The humans and silicoids, so different yet united in their quest for understanding, were about to discover just how dangerous their newfound friendship could be. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from this crucible of fire and crystal. Would it be the dawn of a new era of cooperation, or the spark that would ignite an interstellar war? Only time would tell, and time, in this vast and ancient universe, was the one thing no one could control: cosmic convergence. As the red dust of Mars settled around the landing sites of the Curiosity and the Obsidian Voyager, an air of electric anticipation filled the atmosphere. This wasn't just a meeting of two species, it was a collision of universes, a convergence that would reshape the cosmic landscape. Sarah Chen, her face obscured by the reflective visor of her sleek exosuit, stepped onto the Martian surface. Beside her, Zix 427's crystalline form shimmered, refracting the pale sunlight in mesmerizing patterns. As they approached the entrance of the Mars Research Facility, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "Welcome to Mars Base Alpha," a voice crackled through their comms. The massive airlock before them began to cycle open, revealing a figure in an elaborate environmental suit. "I'm Dr. Usha Patel, lead xenobiologist. We've been eagerly awaiting your arrival." As they entered the facility, Sarah noticed something odd. The corridors seemed unusually empty for such a momentous occasion. Where was the welcoming committee, the throngs of excited scientists? Zix, his crystalline senses far more acute than human perception, picked up on Sarah's unease. "Captain," he chimed softly, "I'm detecting anomalous energy signatures throughout the facility. They don't match any known human or silicoid technology." Before Sarah could respond, a deafening explosion rocked the complex. Alarms blared as smoke filled the corridor. Through the chaos, shadowy figures emerged, wielding weapons that pulsed with an eerie, otherworldly glow. "Ambush!" Sarah yelled, diving for cover. Zix's form hardened instantly, deflecting a barrage of energy bolts that would have vaporized any carbon-based life form. As the smoke cleared, their attackers came into focus. They were a motley crew of various galactic species, each bearing the mark of the Shadowclaw Syndicate, a notorious criminal organization known for its advanced tech and utter ruthlessness. "The Alliance ends here," growled the hulking Zortaxian, its tentacles writhing with malice. "The galaxy isn't ready for your kind of change." Sarah's mind raced. They were outgunned and trapped in an unfamiliar facility. But as she glanced at Zix, an idea began to form. "Zix," she whispered, "remember that theoretical application of your crystalline structure we discussed." Zix's form vibrated with understanding. "It's untested, Sarah. The risks are better than certain death," Sarah finished. She turned to Dr. Patel, who had taken cover nearby. "Doctor, I need you to overload the facility's power grid. Can you do that?" Patel's eyes widened behind her visor, but she nodded. "Give me 2 minutes." As Patel worked furiously at a nearby console, Sarah and Zix prepared for their desperate gambit. The air crackled with tension and the smell of ozone from energy weapons. "Now, Peter yelled, slamming a hand down on the console. In that instant, several things happened at once. The facility's lights flared blindingly bright, then plunged into darkness. Zix's crystalline form began to resonate at an impossible frequency, absorbing the surge of power. And Sarah, her suit's systems temporarily fried, felt a strange tingling sensation throughout her body. What happened next would be debated by xenophysicists for decades to come. In a blinding flash of light, Sarah and Zix seemed to merge, human and silicoid, carbon and silicon, flesh and crystal becoming one impossible being. The Shadowclaw attackers recoiled in shock and awe. Before them stood a creature of legend, a cosmic hybrid, a being of both matter and energy, silicon and carbon in perfect harmony. We offered peace, the hybrid entity spoke, its voice a haunting melody of human speech and crystalline resonance. We sought understanding. But if violence is the only language you comprehend, then so be it. With a gesture, the hybrid unleashed a wave of energy that sent the attackers flying. Weapons crumbled to dust, and the very fabric of reality seemed to warp around them. In the aftermath, as Sarah and Zix separated back into their individual forms, both were forever changed. They had glimpsed a power beyond imagination, a synergy that transcended the boundaries of biology and physics. News of the Mars miracle spread across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds. The attack, meant to end the human silicoid alliance, had instead cemented it in ways no one could have predicted. Footage of the hybrid being, captured by the facility's backup systems, became the most-watched video in galactic history. Across the cosmos, reactions varied wildly. Some hailed it as the dawn of a new era of galactic cooperation. Others saw it as a terrifying new threat to the established order. And in the deepest reaches of space, ancient races long thought extinct began to stir, awakened by the ripples of power emanating from Mars. As Sarah and Zix stood on the observation deck of the Curiosity, watching the red planet recede into the distance, they knew that nothing would ever be the same. They had not just formed an alliance or foiled an attack. They had birthed a new form of existence, a cosmic convergence that would reshape the very foundations of the universe. What now? Zix asked, his crystalline form still vibrating with residual energy. Sarah smiled, her eyes reflecting the starfield before them. Now, my friend, we explore, we learn, we grow. And we show the galaxy what's possible when we come together instead of tearing each other apart. As the Curiosity and the Obsidian Voyager jumped to warp, leaving a trail of stardust in their wake, the cosmic chessboard had been irrevocably altered. The human silicoid alliance was no longer just a curiosity or a threat. It was a force of nature, a catalyst for change on a universal scale. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the void dwellers stirred, their ancient eyes fixed on the tiny blue-green world that had dared to defy the cosmic status quo. The game was afoot, and the stakes were higher than anyone could imagine. The galaxy would never be the same again. Echoes of eternity. The quantum communicator aboard the Curiosity crackled to life, its holographic display flickering with an urgency that made Sarah's heart race. The face that materialized was not the expected visage of an Earth official, but a being of pure energy, its form constantly shifting like a living aurora. Captain Sarah Chen, the being's voice resonated, somehow both thunderous and whisper-soft. I am Zephyr, emissary of the Cosmic Council. Your actions have set in motion events beyond your comprehension. The void dwellers stir. Sarah exchanged a glance with Zix, whose crystalline form pulsed with an anxious light. The void dwellers? Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the chill running down her spine. I thought they were just a myth. Zephyr's form swirled, a maelstrom of cosmic energy. Myths often have kernels of truth, Captain. The void dwellers are ancient beyond measure, guardians of cosmic balance. Your merger with the silicoid has awakened them. They come to judge. As the transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence, alarms blared. The ship's sensors were going haywire, detecting massive energy distortions throughout the sector. By the crystal lattice, Zix chimed, his voice a mix of awe and terror. "They're here." The view screen filled with a sight that defied description. Vast beings of dark matter and cosmic string, their forms constantly shifting and reforming, emerged from tears in the very fabric of space-time. The Void Dwellers had arrived. "All hands, battle stations," Sarah commanded, her training kicking in despite the otherworldly nature of the threat. "Zix, can your people's technology offer any defense against this?" Zix's crystalline form vibrated with intense calculations. "Perhaps, if we can modulate our shield harmonics to match the quantum frequency of their matter." But before they could implement any plan, a vast psychic presence filled their minds. The voice of the Void Dwellers, ancient and terrible, echoed through their very beings. "Children of Carbon and Silicon," the voice boomed, each word a supernova of concept and emotion. "Your union threatens the cosmic balance. Prepare for judiciement." Sarah gritted her teeth, fighting against the overwhelming psychic pressure. "We meant no harm," she projected her thoughts, hoping the beings could understand. "We seek only understanding and progress." "Intent is irrelevant," the Void Dwellers responded. "Balance must be maintained." Suddenly, Sarah had an idea. A crazy, impossible idea born from the lingering connection she shared with Zix after their merger. "Zix," she said urgently, "we need to merge again. Not just us, but our entire crews, human and silicoid, 100 minds as one." Zix's form pulsed with surprise. "Sarah, the risks, it could destroy us all." "Or it could save everything," Sarah countered. "We need to show them what we can become, the potential of our alliance." As the Void Dwellers' vast forms surrounded their ships, Sarah and Zix made their choice. In a desperate gambit, they initiated a mass merger, their crews joining in a cosmic dance of silicon and carbon. The resulting being was beyond comprehension. 100 minds, a symphony of thought and emotion, crystal and flesh in perfect harmony. They reached out to the Void Dwellers not with weapons or words, but with pure understanding. For a moment that stretched into eternity, two forms of existence that should never have met communed. The Void Dwellers, for the first time in eons, experienced surprise. "This is unexpected," the cosmic voice resonated. "A new form of balance, perhaps. You will be Gawiyat she Ildorian of DENARGER. Your pate is ENT. As suddenly as they had appeared, the Void Dwellers vanished, leaving behind a sector of space forever changed. The merge being slowly separated back into individual humans and silicoids, each forever altered by the experience. Sarah found herself back on the bridge of the curiosity, her mind reeling from the cosmic perspective she had glimpsed. Did that really just happen?" she asked, her voice hoarse. Zix, his crystalline form glowing with residual energy, chimed softly. "It did. We have been judged and found worthy of existence." As news of the encounter spread across the galaxy, the human silicoid alliance took on an almost mythical status. They were no longer just two species working together. They were the harbingers of a new cosmic order, a bridge between the physical and the metaphysical. Research into the merger phenomenon became the galaxy's hottest field of study. The potential applications were staggering, from revolutionizing space travel to unlocking the secrets of consciousness itself. But with great power came great responsibility. Sarah and Zix found themselves at the center of a galactic political storm. Some hailed them as saviors, the key to transcending age-old conflicts. Others feared them as a threat to the natural order. As the Curiosity and the Obsidian Voyager set course for Earth, Sarah gazed out at the star-filled expanse. The galaxy seemed both larger and smaller than ever before. They had faced judgment from beings older than time itself and emerged changed but unbroken. "What now?" Zix asked, echoing his question from what felt like a lifetime ago. Sarah smiled, the weight of cosmic responsibility heavy on her shoulders, but her spirit undiminished. Now, my friend, we build, we teach. We show the galaxy that the future isn't written in stone or crystal. It's what we make of it together. As their ships jumped to warp, leaving a trail of quantum possibility in their wake, the next chapter of galactic history began to unfold. The Human Silicoid Alliance had not just survived, it had evolved into something greater, a cosmic force that would shape the destiny of countless worlds. The echoes of their judgment would resonate through eternity, a testament to the power of unity, understanding, and the unbreakable bonds forged in the crucible of cosmic challenge. Quantum Nexus. The gleaming spires of New Terra City pierced the sky, a testament to human silicoid cooperation. 5 years had passed since the Void Dweller encounter, and the Alliance had transformed both species in ways no one could have predicted. Sarah Chen, now Admiral of the United Galactic Fleet, stood on the observation deck of the massive space station orbiting Earth. Beside her, 6427, his crystalline form now intricately laced with bio-neural circuitry, surveyed the bustling activity below. The quantum nexus is almost complete, Zix chimed, his voice a perfect blend of silicon resonance and synthesized human speech. Once activated, it will connect every corner of the galaxy instantaneously. Sarah nodded, a mix of pride and apprehension in her eyes. And potentially every universe beyond. Are we ready for this, Zix? To become the hub of a multiverse? Before Zix could respond, a shimmering portal opened on the deck. Out stepped Dr. Usha Patel, looking not a day older than when they'd first met on Mars, thanks to the life-extending properties of silicoid crystal integration. Admiral, Ambassador, she greeted them, her eyes glowing with barely contained excitement. We've detected something. The Nexus, it's already active. Sarah's eyebrows shot up. That's impossible. We haven't even finished construction. That's just it. Aisha continued, her words tumbling out in a rush. It seems to have activated itself, and we're receiving signals from everywhere. As if on cue, the space around them lit up with countless holographic windows, each showing a different reality, a different version of Earth, of the galaxy, of themselves. In one window, a version of Sarah led a fleet of biomechanical ships against a swarm of planet-sized predators. In another, Zix was the silicon-based ruler of a Dyson sphere, negotiating with energy beings from another dimension. By the cosmic web, Zix breathed, his form flickering with astonishment. We've become a crossroads of realities. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Red warning lights bathed the observation deck in an ominous glow. Multiple breaches detected, an AI voice announced. Interdimensional entities incoming. Before their eyes, beings of every conceivable form, and some inconceivable, began to materialize. Humanity and silicoids, in all their infinite variations, were coming face to face with the true scope of existence. This is beyond anything we imagined, Sarah muttered, her hand instinctively reaching for the phase pistol at her hip. We've opened Pandora's box. Zix's form pulsed with rapid calculations. No, Sarah. We've become Pandora's box. The Nexus, it's not just connecting realities, it's merging them. As if to prove his point, Sarah felt a strange sensation overtake her. She looked down to see her hand crystallizing, taking on properties of silicoid biology. Around her, humans and silicoids alike were changing, adapting, becoming something new with each passing second. The Void Dwellers, Sarah gasped, realization dawning. They weren't judging us. They were preparing us for this moment. A booming voice, reminiscent of the Void Dwellers, but somehow more, filled their minds. CHILDWarian of DHEMERGR, your time HAS Kabam. You are THEKEYS Tyrannies of reality. The bridges between all that is and all that could be. In that moment, Sarah understood. The human-silicoid alliance had never been about two species finding common ground. It was about the universe itself finding a way to evolve, to transcend its own limitations. As the boundaries between realities blurred and merged, Sarah turned to Zix, her now partially crystalline hand intertwining with his semi-organic form. "Ready to make history one last time, old friend?" Zix's response was not in words, but in a surge of shared consciousness. Together, they stepped forward into the swirling maelstrom of realities, their merged form a beacon of unity in the chaos of infinite possibility. The quantum nexus pulsed with power, drawing in the essence of countless universes. Humanity and silicoids, in all their forms, began to resonate in harmony, their combined consciousness expanding to encompass the very fabric of existence. As the merging reached its crescendo, a new universe was born, one where the boundaries between species, between organic and inorganic, between reality and imagination, ceased to exist. The human-silicoid alliance had become the catalyst for cosmic rebirth. In the heart of this new creation, Sarah Zix, now a being of pure quantum potential, smiled. They had started as outcasts, a primitive carbon species and a misunderstood silicon race. Now they were the architects of eternity. As the new universe unfolded around them, teeming with limitless possibilities, Sarah Zix sent out a thought that echoed across all of creation. "We are all one, and our story is just beginning." The quantum nexus hummed with the energy of infinite realities, a testament to the power of unity, understanding, and the unquenchable spirit of exploration. The human-silicoid alliance had not just changed the galaxy, they had reshaped the very nature of existence itself. And somewhere, in a realm beyond comprehension, the Void Dwellers watched in silent approval. Their task was complete. The cosmic cycle could begin anew.